The Tin Man Podcast is a proud partner with DashClip. DashClip specializes in crafting exceptional wallets that go beyond mere accessories. DashClip is not just a brand, it's a philosophy, a daily reminder to embrace life and make every moment count. Check them out today at the-clip.com. That's the-clip.com. This is a Tin Man Podcast hosted by me, Chris Tinius. I'm a former college soccer coach and avid music fan. Many episodes will have a hand in one or both of those topics, but we'll also delve into entrepreneurship, leadership, and other subjects. Basically, this podcast is my way to reconnect with old friends, get new perspectives, and help others share their own stories, passions, and expertise. Now let's get started with the Tin Man Podcast. Welcome to the Tin Man Podcast. Whether you are a first-time listener or back for more, don't forget to hit the subscribe, follow, or like button and never miss another episode. My guest in this episode is Don Brewer, drummer and founding member of Grand Funk Railroad. Hailing from Flint, Michigan, the band reached peak popularity in the 1970s with songs like We're an American Band, I'm Your Captain, The Locomotion, and Some Kind of Wonderful, among others. Known for a crowd-pleasing arena rock style, Grand Funk Railroad toured extensively and played to packed arenas worldwide. They opened the Atlanta Pop Festival, sold out Shea Stadium faster than the Beatles, and the response they received opening for Led Zeppelin resulted in a bit of jealousy from the hard-rocking Brits. Brewer's skill on the drums has led to recording and touring with artists like Frank Zappa and Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. In short, any true examination of 1970s rock cannot ignore Grand Funk Railroad. The band will be performing at the Louisville Palace this Thursday, October 17th. Here's my conversation with Don Brewer. Welcome back to another episode of the Tin Man Podcast. My guest today is Don Brewer. He is a drummer and a co-founder of Grand Funk Railroad. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes to chat with me.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing well. We're excited to see you guys coming to town to the Palace on Thursday, October 17th. And have you guys been to Louisville much over the years?
We've been through there a few times. I can't remember the last time we were there, but definitely we've been through there a bunch of times.
Yeah, and I'm sure like most places you go, the venues kind of change over the years.
It's always a different venue, different place, Yeah.
Yeah, I know we were talking a little bit before we started here to be your first time at the Palace. I think you'll love that. It's a
I hear it's a
place.
Gorgeous theater. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, we're talking about the show with Grand Funk Railroad coming to town. You were just telling me that the 50th anniversary of the Locomotion. But let's talk a little bit from the beginning here. I mean, I know you're from Flint, Michigan, and everybody kind of knows Detroit Rock City, but you guys are kind of part of what made that Detroit Rock City. So how did you kind of get your start in music, and what kind of drew you in?
Well, I started my first band, the Red Devils, when I was in elementary school.
Okay.
And I was playing guitar, and we had a trumpet player and a drummer, and the drummer just had a cymbal and a snare drum. So it was a combo,
Okay.
as they used to say. And we knew one song, Peter Gunn, so we played that song at the, and that was my first band. That band became the Jazz Masters, which came about a year later. We started rehearsing in my parents' basement, and probably because I had the only parents that would allow us to rehearse in the basement, and then that band finally became Grand Funk Railroad. We were Terry Knight in the Pack, and the Pack prior to that had some regional success, and then that's where I met Mark Farner. He came and went a few times in different incarnations of the Pack, and that's where I met Mark. And we decided, when that band fell apart, we decided we wanted to start a new band, kind of based after Jimi Hendrix and Cream, and those are the power trios at the time. And we put together with Mel Shocker, who was with Question Mark and the Mysterians, and we put together Grand Funk Railroad out of that.
All right. Yeah, the Peter Gunn theme, all I can think of is the Blues Brothers. driving through
Yeah,
town.
sure.
Yeah. So your parents let you play in the basement. Did they have a lot of music around the house when you were growing up? Were they musically inclined,
No,
or were they just
both of my parents were into music. My dad was a former swing band drummer back in the Depression.
okay?
He played drums in a swing band for beer. He wasn't they wouldn't get paid, but he'd play for beer. And my mother was a dancer, and so my sister, when she got older, she started doing a dance studio in the basement. And she actually went off to New York and got on Broadway and started making movies and all kinds of stuff. And so she was very successful. But we had parents. Both my dad and my mom were very open to us pursuing musical stuff, artistic stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that support goes a long way. So once you guys get kind of the core of the Grand Funk Railroad together, are you immediately writing your own stuff? Are you playing? You mentioned some of your influences, but are you playing kind of their songs to get going?
Well, we did a lot of covers. Yeah.
Okay.
At the beginning, we did a lot of covers, and and some of them stuck with us. One of them was "Inside Looking Out," which was a former Animals song, and we did a cover of that, and we were doing covers of a lot of other stuff. And which we kind of did a lot of that later too. With the Locomotion was a cover, Some Kind of Wonderful was a cover. So we would always, maybe on every album we had maybe one cover on them. So, but yeah, we, the band leading up to, or starting out as Grand Funk Railroad, we did some covers in there. But we were focusing on original material because that was the thing of the day. 1969, all the bands were like doing original stuff. And so, yeah, we focused on doing the original material.
And who kind of took the lead with that, and how did that process?
Well, we always pushed Mark out there because he was a very prolific songwriter, and he was the singer. So usually the guy that is singing is more, attuned to being the guy that writes the stuff, because he could write it for himself. And so, Mark was our major songwriter back then, and he came up with some great stuff. Yeah.
So again, talking with Don Brewer here from the Grand Funk Railroad. You mentioned Mark was kind of in and out, and then in and out. So you've had several reiterations of the band over the years, which is not unusual for a band that's had the longevity that you guys have had. Is some of that just kind of the natural cycle? Is some of that creative differences? Is some of that, hey, this guy's just kind of wearing on me right now, I need to get away? I'm guessing it's a kind of a combination of all those things.
It's just the dynamic that goes with being in a band. When we had the Pack, one guy got drafted, so we had to. That's how I met Mark Farner, the bass player in the Pack, got drafted into the Army, and so we had to get a bass player. And Mark was a guitar player; he wasn't a bass player. But we said, "Hey, Mark, can you play bass?" And sure, I can play bass. So how hard could it be? So anyway, that's how we got him. But yeah, guys would come and go. We had a guy, Kurt Johnson, that he came and went in the band a few times. He was a little out there, but that was just, that's part of, if you've ever been in a band, you understand.
Yeah, I have not spent any time really in a band, but I was a college soccer coach. I played sports growing up, and I know how much time you're on buses and planes with those people, and in hotels, restaurants.
Yeah, we actually got along pretty well for most of the time.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it's like a family too, right? I mean, you love each other, but sometimes you need a little break and a little bit of space. So I know how that goes.
Some people are easier to love than others.
Sure. So, you guys obviously built up quite a following, and we kind of think back to your heyday. I've heard a couple other interviews of yours, and kind of the Atlanta Pop Festival. You guys kind of feel like that was kind of your jumping off point, and kind of first, I don't know, big break might not be
that's what got us known. Yeah, I mean, I told you about the Pack, and we were the Pack and Terry Knight and the Pack for the 60s, 1963, 64, 65, right around in there. And then when we decided to change our name, it was because the name, the Pack and Terry Knight and the Pack, was kind of getting old fashioned. We needed to come up with something new. And so we changed it to Grand Funk Railroad, being representative of Flint, Michigan, Grand Trunk and Western Railroad, which we used to see on cars. You'd sit at the railroad crossing and you'd watch all these cars go by. And then in the late 60s, a new term for music came along, funk. Mm-hmm. So we did a play on words, Grand Funk Railroad instead of Grand Trunk Railroad. Okay. And it got a lot of, got a lot of notice, but nobody knew who we were. So, we were having trouble, booking gigs because nobody knew who Grand Funk Railroad was. Mm-hmm. And we had an agent that had a friend working the first Atlanta Pop Festival. And he said, if you can get your new band down here, we won't pay them, but, we'll put them on opening act, opening day. And, he said, sure, we'll come down. So we rented a van and borrowed a trailer and put all our stuff on, went down and went on stage, opening act, opening day of the first Atlanta Pop Festival.
Wow.
And the crowd just loved us. They just loved, partially because, it was the first, I guess we were the first band to play at this huge festival, right, with 30,000 people out there. But part of it because they just loved the band, and so they put us on the next day at a better time slot. And the next day they put us on even a better time slot, and from that we had word of mouth going in the South. Mm-hmm. Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, all of the people that came to the Atlanta Pop Festival. I went home and just said, you got to see this new band, Grand Funk. So we started getting a lot of dates in the South and playing across the South. And so that, kind of set us up for, future stardom, I guess,
Yeah. And, for any listeners that might want to go check it out, might not know about it. I mean, everybody knows of Woodstock. But the Atlanta Pop Festival the first one was the year before Woodstock, correct?
Yeah, well, actually I think it was the year after.
Year after, okay.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, but same,
same kind of a thing. It was a new thing, new form of entertainment, and the whole hippie generation was totally into this new thing, especially after Woodstock,
Right, yeah, and if you even earlier today I was reviewing, just going back and looking at that lineup, and it's just a who's who of who was there and playing. And you guys,
Joplin, Edgar and Johnny Winter both,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you guys spent some time opening for Led Zeppelin, correct?
About two shows,
right? Yeah, you were. You're a little too good from what I hear.
I guess we were a little too good for him. Yeah. We were being booked by the same booking agent, Premier Talent in New York. And, their idea, Led Zeppelin was a little before us, and they had one or two big albums before Grand Funk Railroad came out. And so they were big, and we signed with Premier, and Premier wanted to put us on with Led Zeppelin for exposure, And so, we want to put you on, you can be opening act on Led Zeppelin. Sure, And so we played in Detroit at Olympia Stadium, and we went on, and the audience just went nuts for us. And they pulled the plug, their manager, Peter Grant, actually pulled the plug on us, and he didn't like it at all. And so we didn't get to finish that show. And the next show in Cleveland, we went on again, and they threw us off after that show. That was it. You're done.
Yeah, like I said, too good. But talk about building up some credibility and word of mouth kind of spreading with that. I'm sure that didn't hurt anything.
That didn't hurt anything, no.
Yeah, and then I know you guys kind of famous for selling out Shea Stadium faster than the Beatles did, correct?
Faster than the Beatles, yeah. I mean, it's probably because they got their ticket selling process together. Look at how fast things sell out now, over the computers. Right. But yeah. I mean, from the time, I don't know how many years it was between the time the Beatles played there and we did, maybe, must have been 5 or 6 years, And that was a pretty good thing to be able to put in your bio that you sold out faster than the Beatles,
Sure. Right. Yeah. A nice little piece of history there. Again, talking with Don Brewer from Grand Funk Railroad. And I know you've been a part of some other projects as well. You mentioned some of your earlier bands before Grand Funk Railroad, but also played with Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, correct?
I was the tour drummer for Bob Seger for, many years. And even going back to the 80s, I started in 1983, I guess it was, and did 83, 84, then again in 86 and 87. And then again, I came back, while I was still doing Grand Funk. Those were years, the 86, 80s were, wasn't Grand Funk. We had disbanded at that time. So I started doing that as a second gig, and then again in the 2006 through 2016, I toured in the winters with Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band as the drummer, and toured in the summers with Grand Funk. So I was doing both bands for many, many years. Yeah, it was a great experience for me playing with Bob. I loved it.
Yeah, and I've always wondered. Obviously, once you get settled in and you build a rapport with, the new band or the group you're playing with, it I'm sure it becomes old hat. But is there any kind of pressure those first few shows of hey, I'm taking over this role and I've got to make sure I'm matching up to the way they want to do things?
Oh, well, absolutely. There's, you've always got pressure for, playing in another band, being kind of a new guy. But they were very open, so it was pretty easy. I always came in knowing my stuff. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I probably knew the stuff better than the band. Because they, Bob would throw out songs, and I'd go, oh yeah, let's play that, and the band members are going, wait, I haven't played that in 5 years. I gotta, yeah.
Yeah, they're probably just playing as they go, and you've actually studied up on everything before you come in. Sure. So, other than being back out on tour and playing some shows, what's going on with Grand Funk Railroad right now? Are you still writing and recording new stuff, or are you just making the tour around right now?
Yeah, we do mostly live stuff, but we've done, over, this incarnation of the band that we have right now with Max Carl singing lead, and we've got Mark Chatfield is playing guitar for us, Mel Shocker, myself, and Tim Cashin playing keyboards. We've had this band together now for going on 24 years, and we've had a lot of new material come and go in the show. And so we don't focus on it, but we do usually 1 or 2 new songs every night in the show. But the rest of it is all of the hits, stuff people want to hear: rock and roll, soul, foot stomping music, Some Kind of Wonderful, I'm Your Captain, Closer to Home, Inside Looking Out, We're an American Band. What did I leave out? Locomotion.
Yeah. So you mentioned We're an American Band, and I always wonder how many of those types of songs are actually kind of autobiographical? How much of them are just good rock songs? I mean, that's kind of the perfect rock song. You're talking about girls, you're talking about partying in the hotel, you're talking about being out on the road.
Different cities, mentioning different cities. That's all. That always,
right. Yeah. I would say was there really a night in Little Rock that put you in a haze, or is
so to speak? It was, a lot of it was hyperbole, but it was still, up all night playing poker with Freddie King, up all night with Freddie King. I got to tell you, poker's his thing. Those were, little snippets of things going on the road for sure. 4 Young Chiquitas in Omaha, But, the big tag came when I finally came up with the line, We're an American Band. I mean, that kind of sold the whole song, really.
Sure. No, and then it really sticks in people's heads, and they love the song. Don, anything else you want to add here? Again, Grand Funk Railroad will be here in Louisville Thursday, October 17th, and I know I, for one, am excited to get down to the Palace and see you guys. Anything else you want to share that you guys?
Oh, well, come on down. We like to get everybody on their feet and smiling and sweating and having a good time. It's a high energy rock and roll show. So, come on down, have a good time. Really.
All right. We'll look forward to it. Thank you again for your time and for joining me.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thanks again to Don for joining me ahead of his visit to Louisville with Grand Funk Railroad. I guess I can be cheesy and say that getting a first-hand account from a founding member of a quintessential American rock band was some kind of wonderful. You can still find a few tickets left for their show on Thursday, October 17th in Louisville at LouisvillePalace.com. As always, I appreciate you listening. Don't forget to support the Tin Man Podcast by liking or subscribing on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or anywhere you find your favorite podcast. You can also follow on X and Instagram at Tin Man Pod, or check out our Facebook page. We'd love your feedback or ideas for future episodes through any of the previously mentioned platforms or by emailing tinmanpod@gmail.com. We'll take you out with something a little different this week and hope to catch you on a future episode of the Tin Man Podcast.